Morning, students. Today's lesson is going to be all about natural resources and what is an actual natural resource. Um, a good starting point would be watching this video that is attached. I recommend you watch that before you keep watching this video. So click the link that'll be on Teams, and or I'll even put it in the comments of here, and then you can come back here in just a second. Okay, so that video should have given you an idea of what is natural resources and what the significance of them are. We want to today understand that there's a difference between natural resources and manufactured goods. Natural resources being things that come from the earth. They can be of two different types, renewable or non-renewable. But in either situation, they're still natural because they come from the earth. Um, where if we talk about manufactured goods, that means there must have been some point where people had to change sort of the concept or change the way that the resources sort of being used. Manufactured requires people to put energy into changing its method or changing what it's about. And so what we want to understand here is that natural resources are good to use effectively. We can also use manufactured goods in a way that's sustainable, but we should know that there's a difference between the two. So let's look at some examples of natural resources. Um, so they're useful, but they also have some sort of economic value, and you can see some examples right here. So we have water and iron, or just general metals. We have trees and forests and oils and diamonds and jewels and wind, and then we have coal and we have fishing. These are all natural resources. These are things that come from the earth, and we don't really do anything with it. The oil we take it out of the ground, and then we do some cleansing and stuff like that of it, and we sort of purify it in a sense. But that isn't necessarily not. It's still a natural resource. It's still coming from the earth. Natural resources can be a variety of different styles, but the two generally fall into renewable ones and non-renewable. Renewable ones are sustainable, which is a really big thing, especially in our day and age right now. The idea that it can be there's more coming. It's not that there's this limited quantity and it's slowly getting dwindled. Um, it's something that has a less of a impact on the earth around us when we use renewable resources. So some examples of that would be like your sun, wind, water, soil, plants. Um, they don't really cause a lot of negative effects. Um, the hardest thing about them, and the reason that renewable resources are typically overlooked, is that it's quite expensive or difficult to make sure that they're being used most effectively. Um, so they also require weather. In some instances, not all instances, but a lot of them. And so you can't have absolute control over the situation. So that's kind of what makes renewable resources less likely to be used. Non-renewable resources, you should be quite familiar with these things, is things that cannot be replenished, but it's still a natural resource. So coal, oil, diamonds, and fossil fuels, those are all things that still come from the earth. It's taken years and years and years for them to become the way they are. But we use them effectively, or we can still use them. Typically, there's a lot of them, especially Canada. Canada has a lot of natural resources that are both renewable and non-renewable. But the issue is there's a certain amount. There's no more coming after we've taken it all out of the earth. So you sort of have to think about, okay, well, how sustainable is it? Not super sustainable anymore, because if we're taking away from the population, there's none of them left. Um, Now, some of these also the process by which you take these non-renewable sources out of the earth can become pollutants and cause other problems, but they are still technically considered natural resources. Um, Now, we can talk about manufactured goods. Manufactured goods are slightly different than this. They are types of goods that have been gone over, that were a natural resource, but then when they're final finished product, they typically are not anymore. So you can think of manufactured goods as something like a soda can, right? That's something that you don't find soda cans just in the wild. And they farm soda cans. They're like, oh, look at a soda can, fantastic, right? There's this whole process where they have to manufacture, they have to do things with it, they have to put it through a factory, they have to change the method or um, change the way it looks and the way it acts and stuff like that to make it more effective for us. Other sorts of manufactured goods would be like sweaters and stuff like that, right? Some of the sweaters we're wearing are wool, but a lot of them are also synthetics and stuff like that. Those are all things that are manufactured. That means that there's a process by which they're changed. Okay, so what you're going to be looking at is on the right beside the page where it says lesson 1 in your black books. I would like you to write down just a couple of examples of things that I just mentioned about natural resources. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.